In August 1942, far from the capitals of Europe and the factories of America, a remote island in the South Pacific became the center of a brutal struggle for survival. Its name was Guadalcanal. What began as a small amphibious landing soon turned into one of the most desperate and savage campaigns of the Second World War. Here, victory would not be decided by speed or technology alone, but by endurance, starvation, fear, and sheer human will. The landing. On August 7, 1942, United States Marines stormed the beaches of Guadalcanal. Japanese resistance was light at first. The defenders were few, unprepared, and shocked by the sudden American arrival. Within hours, the Marines captured a half-finished Japanese airstrip. It would soon be renamed Henderson Field, and it would become the heart of the battle. For both sides, control of this airfield meant control of the skies, the seas, and ultimately the island itself. Japanese underestimation. The Japanese High Command believed the Americans were weak. They assumed the landing force was small, inexperienced, and easily destroyed. Colonel Kiyonao Ichiki was sent with a limited force to eliminate the Americans in a swift night attack. He believed boldness alone would bring victory. Instead, Ichiki's assault turned into a massacre. Charging headlong into prepared Marine defenses, his troops were cut down by machine gun fire. By dawn, Ichiki's detachment had ceased to exist. The Japanese had made their first deadly mistake, underestimating their enemy. Jungle warfare. Guadalcanal was not just a battlefield, it was a living enemy. Dense jungle, constant rain, suffocating heat, insects, disease. Every step was a struggle. Visibility was often no more than a few yards. Both sides fought blind, exhausted, and afraid. Battles erupted suddenly at night, at close range, often ending in brutal hand-to-hand combat. There were no front lines, only shadows and gunfire. Bloody Ridge. In September 1942, the Japanese launched a massive assault aimed directly at Henderson Field. Their target was a narrow ridgeline held by Marine raiders under Lieutenant Colonel Merritt Edson. For 2 nights, waves of Japanese soldiers charged uphill through darkness and smoke. They were met by rifle fire, machine guns, grenades, and artillery at point-blank range. At times, the fighting became so close that defenders fired from the hip, barely able to see their enemy. By morning, the ridge was covered with bodies. The Japanese attack had failed. The Americans would later call it Bloody Ridge, and it marked a turning point in the campaign. The Battle at Sea. While soldiers fought in the jungle, another war raged at sea. Japanese destroyers raced down the slot at night, attempting to deliver reinforcements and supplies. The Americans called it the Tokyo Express. But daylight belonged to American aircraft flying from Henderson Field. Japanese supply ships were bombed, sunk, or forced to turn back. As weeks passed, Japanese soldiers on the island began to starve. Starvation and collapse. By late 1942, the Japanese army on Guadalcanal was dying, not only from bullets, but from hunger and disease. Men survived on handfuls of rice. Some collapsed where they stood, too weak to fight or retreat. American patrols found abandoned weapons, empty trenches, and emaciated soldiers barely able to move. The Japanese command finally accepted the truth: Guadalcanal could not be held. Evacuation. In early February 1943, Japan launched a secret evacuation operation. Under cover of darkness, destroyers slipped in and carried away the remaining survivors. By February, the island was silent. After 6 months of relentless fighting, Guadalcanal was firmly in American hands. Why Guadalcanal mattered. Guadalcanal was the first major offensive victory by Allied forces against Japan. It shattered the myth of Japanese invincibility. From this point forward, the war in the Pacific would move steadily westward, island by island, at enormous cost. Guadalcanal proved that Japan could be stopped, and once stopped, it could be defeated. Conclusion. Today, the jungle has reclaimed much of Guadalcanal. Rusting weapons lie hidden beneath vines and soil, but the legacy remains. Guadalcanal was not just a battle for an island, it was a battle that changed the direction of the war and marked the moment when the tide in the Pacific finally began to turn. Guadalcanal was more than a battle for territory. It was a test of endurance that stripped modern warfare down to its most brutal reality. There were no sweeping maneuvers here, no quick victories, only exhausted men fighting in darkness, rain, hunger, and fear, often without knowing if the next day would come. For Japan, Guadalcanal marked the end of expansion. The empire that had advanced relentlessly across the Pacific was finally forced onto the defensive. Its army learned at terrible cost that courage alone could not overcome firepower, logistics, and air control. For the United States, Guadalcanal was a hard and painful awakening. It proved that victory would not come easily or cheaply, but it also proved that American forces could fight, adapt, and survive against one of the world's most determined enemies. The lessons learned on Guadalcanal shaped every campaign that followed, from New Guinea to the Philippines, from Iwo Jima to Okinawa. Most importantly, Guadalcanal changed the psychology of the war. After 6 months of relentless combat, the question was no longer whether Japan could be defeated, but how long it would take. Today, the island is quiet. The jungle has grown back, and the sounds of war have faded. But beneath the soil lie the remains of a battle that altered history, a battle where the tide of the Pacific War began to turn. Guadalcanal stands as a reminder that wars are not decided only by generals or governments, but by ordinary men pushed to the limits of human endurance.